Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about SQL aggregate functions. Aggregate functions are used to create data reports, and there are 5 standard ones. Those are count, sum, average, min, and max. Their names are pretty self-explanatory. Count returns the number of values specified in a column. Basically, it returns how many of a certain thing is there. How many employees are working in a branch office? How many properties are there? Okay, or how many different types of properties are there? We're going to do an example in a second. Sum returns the sum of values in a specified column. What's the total salary that is paid at a branch office? So it's going to add up all the salaries of each employee that worked there, and that becomes a sum. Average, similar to sum, but instead of the sum, it returns the average value of a certain column. For example, if you want to find the average salary of employees, you can use average function. Minimum returns the minimum value in a column, and maximum returns the maximum column. Right, the employee who makes the minimum, the lowest salary, or the employee who makes the highest salary can be found using max. Now there are a couple of interesting details about these functions, so I'm going to go over them quickly. First of all, they all operate in a single column. Remember, a data table is made up of rows and columns, and aggregate functions operate on a column, on a single column, and they return a single value. This means that when you call the sum function, it's going to give you one single value. It's not going to return a column or a row. Okay, same as the other functions: average, minimum, maximum, and count. Each function eliminates columns that have null values. If there are any null valued columns, they get ignored. The only exception to this is count with asterisk. Okay, so that will also count the columns that have null value. But there are certain cases where you want to get rid of duplicate values, if repeating values, then you can apply distinct. For example, how many different types of properties in the database, for example, because if you go to the property for rent database, you see that there's house or flat. So we have only two types of different properties. But if you don't use distinct, you'll get 6, the value 6, because it's gonna, oh, okay, there are 6 properties. It's gonna count for each type, because they're not null, they're gonna get counted. But if you want to get the distinct types, then you have to use the distinct keyword. Now, distinct does not affect minimum and maximum functions, because even though they're redundant values, it's still going to find the minimum or the maximum, right? But it will affect the sum and average, because sum and average basically use all the values in a column. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So let's do some exercises. So I'm going to go to phpMyAdmin. I'm going to choose Dream Home Database, SQL Editor, and first let's find the property with the maximum rooms, or let's do this. Find the maximum number of rooms in a property in this database, right? Which is 6, as you can see it, but we're going to do it using SQL. So select max rooms from property for rent. If you go to the database, choose the property for rent, expand the columns, you can see the different columns, and let's run this, and as you can see, the maximum number of rooms is 6 in the database. So what it does is it goes to the table and it goes through all this rooms column, and it finds the value that is the maximum and it returns that. So that's how the aggregate functions work. Let's find the property with the minimum rent, or let's find the minimum rent of a property. Makes more sense for now. Rent, you can see rent here. So the minimum rent in the database is 350. Now later in the next video, I'm going to show you how to use these aggregate functions to use the subqueries to make it more sophisticated queries. For now, we're just going to stick with bare bones aggregate functions. And you can see that 350 is the lowest rent here, so that's the minimum. Now let's see how many properties are there. Right. So count all from property for rent. And 6, okay. You can double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 different properties. Now here's the example. How many different types of properties are there? Right? We know that there's houses and flats, but how do we get this out of SQL? So for this one, I'm going to add the type, property type column. Property type. And if I run this, I get 6. Now, why do I get 6? Because it actually counts every single row. But I do not want that, because that does not tell me how many different type of properties. So to do that, I'm going to use a distinct keyword. When I use distinct keyword, I end up getting 2, which is house and flat. So that's how you can use distinct. So it counts how many different types of properties this way. Next example, how many different types of properties are there? We did that. Find total number of all rooms in all the properties. So I'm going to find a total number of rooms. Sum rooms from property for rent. So there are in total of 25 rooms. That's how sum is used. You can see, you add these to each other and check out. And let's see what's the average rent. Average rent is 470.83333 pounds. Now, so this is the basic aggregate functions. Now let's take a look at grouping data. You can group data using group by clause, and it's basically used to condense data. For example, look at these tables here. The first table has the branches that the staff work at and how much each staff gets paid. But what if I'm asked to create a report that gives me how many employees or how many staff work at each branch and what's the salary expenses of each branch, right? So if you look at here, this data is condensed into this table where for branch 003, we got 3 people. Here, count staff number is 3. And the total salary, which is sum, is 54,000. So basically added up these and created the sum salary. Okay. And we got 2 people work at B005 with the sum salary of 39,000 and 1 person at branch 007 with 9,000. So this type of condensing, this type of reporting can be done using the group by clause. And when you have group by clause and you have different groups of data, you can filter them using the having clause. So having and where are not the same, and you cannot use them interchangeably. Where is for individual rows, having is for groups. So having has to work with a group by. Okay, let's do some exercises for these ones. Find how much salary is paid at each branch office. So how much salary is paid at each branch office. So I'm going to look at the table first. Now, if you look at the staff table, you have for each staff, you have branch office numbers that they work at, and they also have their salary. So I'm going to, from this table, I'm going to use a group by and create an answer to the query. How much salary is paid at each branch office? In the total of it, total of salaries that is paid in each branch office. So select branch number. Since we have to map total number of salaries to each branch office, I have to select branch number. Sum salary, so aggregate function, and the name of the column that I look for the sum of the column number for the summation. We're choosing from the staff table, and I am going to group the data by the branch number because I want to see some salary sum for each branch, per branch. Okay, and this is how the group by is used. Now you can see the resulting table. For B003 it's 54,000, B005 is 39,000, B007 it's 9,000. So it grouped the data, it condensed the data. Okay. Let's do another one. Find cities that have more than one branch. So if you go to branch table, you see that there are different cities, and each city has one or more branches. And I'm interested in finding the city or cities that have more than one branch, which in this table it's only London. You can see there's 2 branches in London, B002 and B005. So how do I do this? First of all, I'm going to need the city column, since I'm going to map number of branches to city. I need the city column, and then count. Okay, how many rows coming from each city? From branch. And then group by city. I'm going to group by city because I want to know how each city has, which city has how many branches, right? So if I want to just get the answer to the question how many branches per city, then I can just run this as is. And I can see that Aberdeen, 1 branch, Bristol, 1 branch, Glasgow, London is 2 branches, right? So this is the resulting table, which I can make it look a little bit prettier. I can just make this as number of branches. So I made an alias and I changed the column name. Better than count asterisk. And anyway, so up to this point, this will show only how many branches per city, right? But what if I want to see cities that have more than 1 branch? Then I would use having count greater than 1. That will only give me London. Okay, so this is how you can use having. It has to be used in group by. This is it for this video. In the next video, I'm going to show you joins, SQL joins, and subqueries. See you in the next video.